Aladdin is crazy about football, obvious from his artificial limb full of cracks and holes. Luckily, he has another leg within reach, so when the next emergency call comes, he is ready to leave straight away. Aladdin's leg was amputated after a landmine accident. We are in Bosnia, Europe's most landmine-affected country. Aladdin's job, to bring hope to new victims.
As soon as I get news about a new landmine victim, I immediately jump into my car and drive straight to the hospital to support the family. And when there's no family, it's my job to work first-hand with the victim to help them handle the shock. Later, once the victim gets out from hospital, I visit them as often as needed at home.
Aladdin meets Mirnez. It's almost a miracle that this 18-year-old can still use his arms. We're in Solubule, a tiny village in the Bosnian countryside. It was a cold winter day in January of this year that Mirnez helped his cousin to cut firewood in a nearby forest.
There was a huge detonation. At first we thought it was my chainsaw that had exploded, but it wasn't. I was knocked out, and when I came around again, about 10 minutes later, I realized what had happened. It was a landmine.
Mirnez's mother remembers each moment of that dark day.
While working in the cornfield, I heard a detonation. But first I thought, it's one of those animals again that's walked on a landmine. That happens sometimes. And that's why we're all familiar with that sound. Back at home, I'd invited my sister and my mother-in-law for a coffee, telling them I'd heard a landmine explosion.
But it wasn't an animal. Mirnez was wounded on both arms, his cousin on both legs. The feeling of helplessness that racked Mirnez during the accident still haunts him today.
My friend asked me to apply a tourniquet above his legs to stop the bleeding. But I was severely injured on my arms and could not use them. He asked me not to leave him alone, to stay with him until the arrival of the rescue team. The war has been over for almost 2 decades, and those landmines are still there, ready to kill us at any moment.
And this landmine did. Mirnez's cousin died a few hours later. After an operation to transplant some leg muscle onto his arm, Mirnez has been helped by Aladdin and his mother to look to the future. Today he prepares for his driver's license. With the use of his arms restored, Mirnez checks Aladdin's car. Maybe he'll be a mechanic. Aladdin has given him hope. The director of NGO Landmine Survivors Initiative is not at all optimistic that demining Bosnia can be done in the scheduled time.
Bosnia is facing tremendous challenges to achieve mine-free country by 2019, as the National Mine Action Strategy foresees. There is a great deficit of funding to be provided by national and local sources. For instance, just in 2013, last year, national sources provided just 1/4 of the projected funding.
And the situation got even worse. This spring, the worst floods and landslides for a century disturbed the minefields here in northeastern Bosnia. These ruins indicate the former front line. Some may have been rebuilt, but landmines are still found all around. In Kovačić, we meet the heroes of today's Bosnia, the deminers. Zelko, Dushko and Sanjin face deadly risks every day at work. An estimated 200,000 landmines are still waiting out there, and it's not easy to find them.
I like to help people to get back to their homes where they used to live before the war. And there's a second reason why I chose this work. We need jobs, and there are no other jobs available.
Since the end of the war, almost 1,700 people have been killed or injured by mines or unexploded ordnance in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Detecting some metal, Sanjin calls in the team leader. It's an adrenaline-filled moment for the group, but it's a false alarm, just some rusty scrap metal. This spring, some 5,000 landslides transformed the Bosnian landscapes, and several of these slides directly affected minefields.
This was just a normal field where locals mowed grass to make hay. But due to the heavy rains and landslides, the minefield placed at the former front line, uphill from there, came down partially. And right now, those landmines are somewhere over there.
Before the war, 160 families lived in Kovacic, but the village was deserted during the fighting. Only 18 families have returned. Stoyan remembers the day he came within 20 centimetres of death.
I was tired, so I sat down on a log to light a cigarette. My cigarettes fell down. I went to pick them up. Suddenly I see something green, strange looking. I'm wondering what's that. I move aside the leaves. It's a landmine. I found landmines 4 times already. So far, 4 times.
In Sarajevo, we have an appointment at the state agency in charge of coordinating all demining activities. Demining companies have accused the director of bribery, and there are allegations that the head of the Mine Action Centre took 10% of the contracts. We put the question to his deputy.
We are very under the pressure after our director has been arrested. So it's, let me say, nobody's smiling here. But I agree with you that corruption is, let me say, a dark cloud around us.
While the prosecutors attempt to shed some light on this darkness, we revisit Stoyan and his wife. Here the locals are angry, not just about this recent corruption scandal, but mostly because there are still 1,300 square kilometres of suspected minefields. The couple have lost friends on the nearby hills.
Personally, I was affected by 2 cases. The first incident happened when a father, with his son, went to cut wood. The landmine killed the father, his son was severely injured. And then 3 of my friends searching for mushrooms. One of them stepped on a landmine and died on the spot.
Behind Stoyan's house, Khalid gives his mine detection dog Ikos some refresher training on sniffing out landmines. Despite the scale of the job left to do, underfunding means only 500 deminers are currently working, while 1,000 more are out of a job. If all were put to work, then the country's demining rate could double or even triple. Tired faces and shared silence. A moment to remember lost colleagues who died in the line of duty.
I lost a good friend, a colleague of mine, and I have many friends who survived, but who were severely injured after a mine exploded, and they can no longer move on their own after that accident.
In the first half of this year, 14 more names were added to the long and bloody list of victims of the Bosnian countryside. 4 of them were killed, including 1 child. And the year is not over yet. The death traps hidden in the Bosnian forests will continue to kill innocent people.